your hands on top of your head.
Well, I didn't.
Now!
Here comes the jam, getting down with the truth, the only way he knows how to. Girls all up, what's his name? We call him the Chief. You're damn right, he's gonna get that sucker. Yo, we track down the truth, you know what I track down the truth, you know and what did they call him? We call him the Chief. You're damn right we do.
I'll bet your mother had a loud bark.
Good morning. This is Morning Coffee with the Chief. I'm your host, Patrick Jordan, on Pop Culture Minefield. You can find us every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Pop Culture Minefield's YouTube channel, their Rumble channel, and on their Facebook page. And you can also go to their Twitter feed and find us there. So you can also find me at on my Twitter or X handle at LSD Jordan. I do post a wide variety of things. I also post my podcast on my Twitter page. I also do another show. It's Briefing with the Chief, in which I go over public policy, what's in the news, basically supportive of law enforcement. And you can find that on KGRA's Rumble channel, their Facebook page, and their Twitter feed every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can also download their app. Their app is at kjradb.com. Download their app, and you can listen to the live radio show, Briefing with the Chief. But you can also go to kjradb.com, Briefing with the Chief, and you find my show and host. Go to the show and host tab, find my bio page, and at the bottom of my bio page are all the audio versions of my show. Now, recently, I did interview two candidates for LA County Sheriff. Oscar Martinez. It was interesting, and he's Latino, obviously, and he's a former Marine, or a Marine, as he says. They're never former Marines. And he is a lieutenant for the sheriff's department, and he was a migrant. So it was an interesting perspective that he had on enforcing immigration laws. He believes in it, right? And then I interviewed Mike Borman, who's running for sheriff, and I interviewed a sheriff up in Pierce County, Washington, who's restricted from working with ICE, but he wants to work with ICE, so he's suing because he says it's a violation of their constitution to restrict the sheriff from working with ICE, and he's trying to take him to court to clarify that. So a lot of people around the country doing interesting things. This next week, I'm going to have somebody from Michigan on. We're going to talk about his candidacy for the House, a House seat in there in Michigan, and Law and Order is one of his platforms. And then in a couple of weeks, I'm going to have, I forget who my guest is going to be, a couple of weeks, but Alex Villanueva is going to announce, or he's already kind of indicated that he's running for sheriff again. This is the former sheriff of LA County. I will try to get him on his show. I was at a political event this Saturday. I spoke at it, and he was there, and it was a little, I had supported another candidate against him before, so it was a little different, but we're supporting somebody who's running for the 3rd Supervisorial District in Los Angeles County, a conservative gal who's running against Lindsay Horvath. And I made some comments about Lindsay Horvath that are absolutely true, and they point out why we have to make change here in LA County. It's just crazy. We have a lot of these Democratic socialists here. We need to get rid of them, get a little more balance in our political and our politics here locally. So that's why I decided to speak on her behalf. But today we're gonna do the movie Dark Blue, which was released in 2012. It's an American neo-noir crime thriller film. But before I do that, I got to do my plug for the LA Mission. The LA Mission just had some leadership change. They've had some funding issues. I'd like you to go to the LA Mission. They've been around for 88 years now, and they supply some basic services to the folks in Skid Row, the homeless in Skid Row. They provide wraparound services for those who've made the decision to get off the streets and re-enter society. They have an excellent reputation. They also make the sign of the cross, so they don't get any money from government. So do me a favor, go to the losangelesmission.org, losangelesmission.org, and make a donation today and help them out. And And they're one of those nonprofits that has a long record of doing good work. There's some of these other fly-by nonprofits that are getting a lot of this money. I'm less positive about, but I am positive about the LA mission. They do a great job. But hey, let's bring up our guests, and we'll go by rank. They're all retired, but we'll go by rank. It's former Lieutenant John Baylis, in parts unknown. He's a California refugee, newlywed. Hey, John, how you doing?
Good. Life's good.
Good.
Got a
good.
gorgeous young wife. Life's good.
Okay, welcome back to the show. And then we got retired Sergeant Scott Orr. He's another California refugee, although he's back slumming with us here in California for a little while longer, and before he heads back to his volunteer state. Hey, Scott, how you doing?
Good, Pat. How are you?
So, are you getting a little bit of dose of the politics, and that reminds you why you want to leave, Scott? While you're here.
Oh, Pat, as soon as you cross the border and see the gas prices, you're paying, $2.75 for a gallon of gas, and then it's $4 something when you cross the border. It's tough.
I know it's funny because I've been boning up on energy policy, both for at the tank and then for electricity, and just crazy what our government is doing here in California. It's just crazy. Most people don't know it, and it hits the poorest people the most. But not that long ago, it was like $5.50 a gallon.
Yeah.
And I think the only reason it's going down, and unfortunately the person who will benefit is, Newsom, the prices are going down, it's because Trump is probably drilling. There's more supply available. It even helps us who has stupid policy regarding energy here in California. It helps our gas prices. Inflation's going down, not because of anything that the legislature has done or Gavin Newsom has done here. It's because it's the federal policies that's helping us.
And he's got Saudi Arabia dropping prices.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's I wasn't a huge fan of Trump the first couple of times, but I voted for him. The second time around, I said, okay, he's my guy. I'm voting for him. Right? I still don't like some of the stuff he does, but you know what? I like his policies. I like his policies. His policies are great.
Yep.
And he's what I would call a muscular leader. He leads. He's
he
get out of my way.
Did you see Newsom on the Sean Ryan podcast?
Yeah, was that the one where he's talking about how he's going to run an initiative so they can change the gerrymandering stuff?
Oh yeah, a whole bunch of stuff. And he's
I
sitting like a girl with his legs crossed because he's got no balls.
I've been doing a little bit on my show. I just started it last on Briefing with the Chief, where I just go over. Okay, this is what Newsom, like the first one. Newsom's lies. Because most people they don't know who he is. If you live in California, I've lived in California, you know his lies, right? But most of the country don't know it, right? And they work really hard to bury the truth here in California. And so I decided, well, over the next several months, I'll do just a brief segment where I'll pick up. Like the last one I did was his lie that the oil companies are gouging Californians.
He put in 3 years ago new taxes that every year are going to go on the gas.
Yeah.
And just 3 weeks ago, it went up 65 cents in California for taxes.
Yeah, I know. And but a USC finally did a study and said, no, it's taxes and regulation that are the primary causes for the inflated gas prices, which anybody that had a basic economics class, even if you only got a C in it, you figure that one out, right?
Yeah.
And but the LA Times and all these other people will report on that because they're all down with the cause, right? So it's interesting. Newsom is interesting, but hey, so the show
that's Valero's closing a refinery in
Northern
California because they can't keep up with all the regulations.
Yeah, they're talking about In-N-Out is leaving too. The owners of
In-N-Out
are leaving. They're
going to
Tennessee, but yeah, they're talking about 2 refineries closing. Here's the crazy thing about it. There are other states that depend on these refineries, Nevada, I think Arizona.
Yeah.
And their prices are going up too because of this idiot.
I was just in Phoenix, and my wife's uncle, who's very, he stays on top of things. He says the gas prices are higher in Phoenix because they get their gas from California.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tucson, he's like, it's a dime to 15 cents cheaper because they get theirs from Texas.
Yeah. It's, I just, here's what anybody that, if he does get the nomination, it'll be funny because I just talk about energy policy and how he's destroying his state with energy policy would work. Yeah, that's crazy.
He won't get the nomination. AOC and Crockett are run together, and there'll be enough comic relief stuff there for years.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if some of these old fossils manage to push them out of the way again, right? So the Democratic Party, it's like they got to get some young moderates, and they kill moderates. They eat them for breakfast. They want nothing to do with them. It's crazy.
New York's got a socialist, communist, Muslim scumbag that the Democrats voted for over Cuomo, and he's going to run against Sliwa. And right now, Sleeve is rising, and that Muslim guy is going down. And I hope he doesn't get in because the white liberals in New York are idiots.
They'll flee. That's what they'll do. Hopefully, they don't flee to Florida and change the composition down there in terms of voting. But yeah, they'll flee. They'll suddenly get religion. Their kids will get religion. Their kids will go, "Wait, I can't buy anything here. What do you mean this is crazy policies?"
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we're doing the movie Dark Blue. Like I said, it was released in 2002, an American neo-noir crime thriller. It was directed by Ron Shelton. Now, this is the guy that directed Bull Durham, which I really liked that movie. I don't really care much for Susan Sarandon in the movie, but I love. I mean, in the movie she was great, but in her politics she wasn't all that great. But a great movie. He also did the movie Tin Cup, so he did a lot of sports-themed kind of movies, and they were great. But I didn't really think this was all that hot of a movie, right? But we'll get into that in a little bit. And it was based upon a story written by James Ellroy, who's kind of an unusual character. This is the guy that wrote L.A. Confidential and the Black Dahlia, and I reviewed both of those. I think you were with me when we did the Black Dahlia and L.A. Confidential too, John?
Yep, did them both.
Yeah, and I thought those were great, and
Ellis was Elson.
His name is James Ellroy.
Elroy. He did not want his name on this film. He said he did the script and did his book, and he said they totally tore it up, and he did not want to be associated with this film.
Yeah, I could have been a lot better. Then I think it ended. And of course, I didn't read the material. See, some criminals or most people who are not criminally inclined don't think the law applies to them. Yeah,
this is true.
Yeah, for an example, I mean, I've watched a guy at the airport get uppity with a guard. Yeah, well, you know what? Okay,
we're all used to that.
You're talking to three guys who did over 30 years in law enforcement each. We get just, do you know who I am? Yeah, you're the guy going to jail. That's the high. Did you ever do that one?
Yep.
No, and I don't care.
or
no, I never said that. Yeah,
I don't have to show you my ID. Really? Okay.
10
minutes later, I'm sorry. Can you take my ID down? Nope, you're going to jail.
I don't have to sign that ticket. Oh, yeah, you don't. But
or I had one guy signed it. Mickey Mouse was really, you're going to jail.
I know. I did that a couple of times. Yeah, you're the guy going to jail. That's what I know, and that's who you are. But I never made any sense. Or I like the one that says, I'm a lawyer. Great. Get out of the car, put your hands on your back. So what kind of law do you practice? Tax law. Oh, well, good luck with the criminal code. It's like, if your whole career is looking at the penal code and the traffic code, enforcing the laws, the elements inside and out, right?
Right.
And then you get these people who want to, even lawyers who, I know better than, this is all I do. There's only, and even the penal code, you tend to focus on, maybe I don't know, 100 sections at most that you're arresting for, right? So it's not every single section. You get some unusual exotic crime that you arrest for, but you know it thoroughly inside and out. You've been to court, you've watched the suppression hearings, you've been all of this stuff, and you're not a lawyer, but you got a pretty good idea what you can and can't do based upon some trial and error and training, right? And then these guys, you know, you pull these guys over, and anyways, that's but hey, this what I so I expected more out of this film when I read it, and it's, you know, I have to frame it. It's built. The backdrop is the Rodney King trial and the Rodney King riots, right? So, and I do like stories that are written. So it's a fictional story in the framework of that time frame. So you have real life events and then a fictional story written in it. I do like that kind of. So I guess I'll have to read the story because I like, you know, like Leon Uris was a good. I don't know if you ever read any Leon Uris' stuff. He wrote Trinity. It's about the troubles in Ireland, and he used real life events, but he made fictional characters still an interesting story. Or QB7, that was one around somebody that was about the Holocaust and somebody who had gotten away with some stuff during the Holocaust, and then he was tried like 20 years later. So it was just good stuff, and I like the historical context of it. And this for us, it's a reminder we were all working when this happened, the Rodney King event, and I guess we should roll that. Let's roll the first. Let's roll the first scene here. It says dark blue because it does show a little bit of the CHP pursuit that led to the Rodney King incident. So it started out with the CHP. Most people probably don't remember that.
Yep.
And the LAPD jumped into it. God, now, you know, our policies are don't leave it alone, you know, unless they're asking for assistance, we stay out of it, right? And
Yep.
I don't know if they did or not. And even then, you know, we measured how many people would get involved. The sergeant would be, you know, jumping on people. Okay, just 2 units and whatever. But here it shows it, and I'm fairly confident this was all original video. Right? This is what it looked like. This is original video, right?
Yep.
Yep. And so on this scene, you see it, and we talked about it before the show. One of the things, even right after this happened, these guys are on trial for the Rodney King thing, and Rodney King basically was speeding down was it the 118 or the 210? And probably the 118. It was in Foothill, right? And LAPD Foothill Division jumped in to help out these 2 CHP officers. And Rodney King's a big guy, charged at him, and they used batons on him, and they went overboard on the batons. That's, I think, probably the best way to say it. And the trial was moved, so they were put on trial and local trial. So it was state charges. But the trial was moved to Simi Valley, which is a suburb of, well, not a suburb of Los Angeles. It's another county. It's adjacent county, Ventura County. And they were acquitted. And this ultimately led to a riot. And all of that is the backdrop for this fictional story that we have. So I have to tell you, for me, the riots, I was working at Universal Studios. We had a little small substation up there. I was the 2-striper in charge. And I wanted to go because I was trained. The gas guy, hey, platoon me up, send me go. I'll go. And nope, I had to stay and protect the studios for 12 hours a day for the next week. So, what'd you do during the riots, Dad? Oh yeah, I protected a critical piece of infrastructure called Universal Studios for 2 weeks. Everybody telling me how happy they are and proud of me and thank you for service. And I felt so guilty because they're feeding you and everything. And so during the riots, I wasn't able to engage. Where were you at, Scott, when the riots happened?
I was actually working on the desk because I had to take a time out, I guess. And so I was a watch deputy. And
we won't ask why you had a timeout,
Yeah.
but hey,
Well, nothing. Anyway, so I saw it going down. We started we started seeing the TV, and then my wife was working up in West Los Angeles, and I called her and I said, "Go home." And she's like, "What's going on?" I said, "Just get out of there now." So I said, "There's riots are starting." So she ended up driving home back down to Orange County from West Hollywood, and she's like, "I could see fires everywhere."
Yeah.
And then So then they started beating a truck driver,
Reginald Denny.
And everybody was calling us, you have to do something. LAPD's not doing anything. You got to respond up there. He's going to get murdered and blah, blah, blah. And that's like, it's not our jurisdiction. We can't go into, because I was like, can we send units? And our, my watch commander's like, no, we're not sending units from Carson. There's closer stations if they ask for assistance.
Right.
But LAPD's not asking for anything. So we just kind of, and then they started, destroying Carson and the northern part of Carson, which is majority black area. So then they're like, you're not on the penalty box anymore. Now you're going to go out in the field. Okay. So then it was, I used to call our first house the house that Rodney built because our down payment was all the money I made from overtime.
Working.
So,
yeah. Well, how long were you on 12-hour shifts?
I think it was 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So none of us complained because most of us loved overtime. So it was like, okay. But I mean,
Right.
I tell people we didn't handle it like the last rights they just had. We had 3 units of 4 deputies and 1 unit with a sergeant and 3 deputies. And we just roamed around to problem spots and took care of business and stopped the looting and pushed them out, or they would disperse, because we did have one where they started shooting. We had a sergeant get on the radio and say, retreat. Well, like 10 of us were were Marines. And one of them gets on and says, we're Marines. We don't retreat from shit, Sarge.
So true.
So he finally ordered us to Compton and Figueroa, some business. And when we got there, of course, he's very upset that we actually, somebody said that to him on the radio. And then I can't remember, the watch commander comes flying in there. And he says, who the hell is the asshole that yelled retreat on the radio? We all pointed at that was the start of it. But I tell people it was total anarchy, but it was fun.
Yeah, I love the Koreans.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They got on the roofs. They showed that in the film. They got on the roofs and protected
they
their area. They showed it in the film. So yeah.
Right,
Where were you working at, John? Were you in an administrative spot at the time?
No. I was in the jails.
Okay.
I just made sergeant in '92, in March of '92, and Art Lucas took a team to Magic Mountain because all the gangbangers there were doing all sorts of shit. He had a team out there, and we go there as backup. He had them straight away.
Yeah,
they
Art's
did
a good guy.
Line. Every gangbanger ran like a motherfucker.
Yeah,
so we saved a lot of they saved a lot of families. A lot of families with their kids that the gangbangers were throwing shit at and everything else, and breaking windows at Wendy's down to the street. And, yeah. Art and his crew took care of business.
Art's good people. He's a
good
guy. Hey, so in this scene, we have 2 thugs, salt and pepper team, go in and they shoot the person behind the counter, and then one of them stays downstairs and shoots everybody comes in. This is why, this is completely unbelievable. I mean, yeah, we have knuckleheads who are stupid like this on our streets that would do stuff like this, and it mixed into the scenes where they're basically looking for the safe in this place. There's supposed to be a lot of money there, but they kill like 4 or 5 people at this robbery, right?
Yeah, it was way overdone.
Yeah, way overdone. And that's why it immediately made it unbelievable. And then we're also looking at a border rights hearing where they're going over a shooting. And I believe they don't really say it, but these guys, I think, are supposed to be, and this is Kurt Russell and his partner, are supposed to be, so Kurt Russell is Sergeant Perry, and
Scott Speedman played.
Yeah. I think they're supposed to be SIS, is what I think they're supposed to be, or majors. They call them majors, I think. So I don't know if did LAPD have a majors team? I always thought they had robbery homicide, right, which just gets portrayed in this thing, and they got SIS, but I never heard the term majors. That's
That's our
Well,
term. Yeah, SIS
That's-
is what
They did call him later in the movie. They did call him SIS.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, originally they're calling them major. So these guys are SIS, which depending on your political standpoint, they're either controversial or fantastic, and they do good work. They're good coppers, and they end up getting a lot of shootings because they follow really bad guys who are really bad guys, right? And here's one guy. You show one guy coming out, and he ends up surviving. So it leads to the identity of who these guys are. So here we go. 3 weeks SIS, and you have made your first kill. So this is, and I don't know. I don't know LAPD's board of rights things. Have you guys ever heard of anything like this where they grill you like this? The panel grills you like this?
I testified in one.
Did you really?
Yeah. And it was, you go in there and there's like a chair in the center of the room, kind of like a court. And then you have a whole table full of LAPD executives. And it's almost like a court. Start asking questions, and then they go down the line, and each one's asking you certain things. And it was, you might have been at Carson, Pat. It's when that detective from Harbor Division stiffed in a burning garage call.
Oh, really?
Of the white neighbors across the street. He kept calling 911 calls, and then it was after Rodney King, and it was he kept harassing them and then writing threatening letters. But here's how smart he was. He used a whiteout on LAPD letter envelope. So of course the crime lab was able to take it off.
They just scraped the whiteout and found out it was an LAPD envelope.
Yeah, and then his fingerprints were all over the envelope and the letter. So
oh my God!
And he was making all kinds of. He was saying all kinds of racist things and calling us, you guys are the Rodney King beaters and stuff like that. And we're trying to talk to him. So finally, Mark Pearson says, just hook him up. He's going to jail. And then he's like, I'm LAPD. Marv was like, good, you're still going to jail. So, and then LAPD showed up. And so that's what that was. I think they gave him like 30 days off.
Oh, he was harassing another family on the street?
Yeah, right across the street. A white family moved in, and he kept stiffening calls of like a fire in their garage. We get there, and they're looking at us like, what? Well, somebody called and said your garage is on fire. We didn't see any fire walking up.
And I got to ask, was it a black cop or who was it?
Yeah, he was a black guy from. It was in leadership, which is all. It's mostly all African Americans, so I guess he didn't want them in their neighborhood, so he started making bogus calls, and then he sent them threatening letters to move out, or they were going to end up dead. Somebody's going to break in their house and kill them and stuff like that. So,
wow. And he only got 30 days off.
Yeah, didn't get demoted or anything.
Well, yeah. Nowadays you get promoted, I guess, huh?
Yeah, no shit.
So anyway, the guy gets cleared on his first shooting at 3 weeks at SIS. He gets cleared on his first shooting, and he's partnered with Kurt Russell. Now, I like Kurt Russell as an actor. I didn't. He was okay in this movie. Probably the plot line is the worst aspect of this movie. So.
The writing, the plot line, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he does
he's
okay.
He's a great actor.
He's a good actor, and I always like him. And he's done so many stuff. I mean, Disney,
Oh yeah, he's
been Ultra G stuff to really the dark stuff. I mean, did you see the one Bone Tomahawk, the one where it's just kind of this horror Western thing? Oh my God, that was. He was great in that one. You haven't seen that one?
He was great in Tombstone.
Tombstone was really good.
Great.
Did you ever see the one where he played the soldier, where they raise him as kids, and they make him into soldiers for outer space and phenomenal acting.
Yeah, he's.
But
he was a star with Disney.
Cost $15 million to make.
Okay, go, good, John. Finish up.
His dad was an actor, Bing Russell. He played the marshal on Bonanza.
I had no idea, really.
Yeah, really. Bing Russell, his dad.
I never knew that.
Is that what you're going to say, Scott, or what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say you can tell it wasn't a good movie when it cost $15 million to make and it only made 12.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, maybe they wanted to, it was 2002, so it was 20 years after.
23 years ago.
Yeah, it was well after the Rodney King incident, and so maybe they probably should have tried to make it sooner, I guess, so they can capture some money on it. But I don't know when the guy wrote it. But he did good stuff in the past. That's what, let's see. It was sort of a neo-noir edge that is heavy. Yeah, we did neo-noir. Like I said, we did L.A. Confidential, which is a fantastic film, right? And it's the same kind of thing. The guy writes a fictional story in historical time frames, because I think they did the Zoot Suit kind of thing in that one, right? And they had the Christmas massacre where the cops went in and beat a bunch of guys that had happened around the time that this was placed, but not exactly. So they pulled together historical events and put them in the film,
right?
Which made it really interesting. And this is what they're doing here. So I do like the way this guy still tells stories, because I think when you use historical events, it kind of pulls you in because you're familiar with the event, and then you get this fictional story.
Yeah, City Confidential was amazing. This, not so much.
Well, even Black Dahlia, we did that one. So that was obviously it's based upon a true story, but you got fictional characters in there that the two partners and allegedly both boxers. I mean, that was a fictional, fun story, but it was it's fiction wrapped around truth or true events, which just makes it interesting. Let's roll the next scene. This one I labeled it Thugs and Cops, and so this is where you find out that we have a relationship. Now we have Gleason is in this film. So did you do the guard? Who did the guard with me? One of you guys do it? Yeah, Scott did.
Bruges.
Right? Yeah, we did that. You did that. Did you go both through that one with me too?
Well, I did Bruges. I don't know who I did it with.
And Scott did John. The Guard is it's just this dark comedy about this Irish police officer pushing back against corrupt cops in his small town. It's pretty funny. I thought it was funny. You thought the movie was funny.
Yeah, it was funny. It's a good movie.
It's a good movie, and we did it. I forget who was with us on that movie. Maybe it was I can't remember now, but yeah. So we got Brendan Gleeson is also in this movie, and he plays a commander, and he's really the ultra bad guy in this, who's orchestrating. Here he is in the scene with these two, the Sidwell, and I can't remember the other guys. Yeah, Orchard and Sidwell, the name of this black and the salt and pepper team. And here's Gleason, and he comes in. He plays Van Meter. He plays a corrupt police commander. This is the part that gets really, really super unrealistic to me. So we got an LAPD commander orchestrating, working with these two guys and orchestrating some kind of this theft, which netted him $150,000. I have no idea. They don't really get into why he suggests you guys owe me, but they don't really get into what caused that. But hey, thugs like this, there's no allegiance to anybody. That's why are they even staying in town? I mean, and so that at first that you have this commander one who has snitches, right? You stop having snitches when when you get past sergeant as an investigator, right? Because you're not on the streets anymore. But he's got snitches. Yeah, it just didn't make any sense to me. None of that made sense to me. It's just unrealistic. And because as we know, a lot of guys as they get hired, they don't like to get their hands dirty by actually doing police work. And these guys, I don't know, it's just unbelievable. What'd you think of this, Scott? Commander with snitches and snitches being loyal to that commander as they commit crimes. Just unbelievable to me. I didn't believe it at all.
Yeah, I don't ever see. I mean, I can't. I'm sure it probably happened somewhere, but I don't see it ever happening on. I mean, we did have the major Narcos thing, but
supposedly he got them out on parole, so they owed him. I'm like, why would he do that? Right. Not a commander.
No.
Yeah. maybe in the 1940s, 30s, and 40s, we had some of this stuff going on in LA, but not now. Not LAPD, not now. I mean, I will say, NYPD is going through a really corrupt period. It's crazy what's going on there. Their senior leadership is involved in corrupt behavior, and they're getting fired. And because one of their chief had their former commissioner had a brother had been a sergeant who created a consulting firm that went to nightclubs and said, well, you hire us and we'll make sure that you're not raided by the police. Straight extortion, right? A la Cosa Nostra, right? And he of course had to resign, and they have all of this crazy corruption going on because Mayor Eric Adams put crazy people in charge. He put corrupt people in charge, and so we're getting corruption. It's actually the line people that are really frustrated, because NYPD did go through a long period of trying to flush corruption out, and then it came soaring back in just one generation because of really poor leadership. And I think LAPD, with all of its faults, it does have a lot of faults, does a really good job of staying on top of this stuff. That's why I think this is unrealistic, even in the 90s, this storyline. Yeah. What do you think, John? LAPD, they take care of business when they find corruption, right? What was the one? We remember the Hollywood burglary scandals. Hollywood division. They were stealing stuff at burglaries, right? And it was a handful of guys, and it wasn't like it was super widespread.
No, it was. Look at our department. Remember Majors Narco?
Yeah.
Narco Majors. You had a sergeant there that new guys would come in, and they'd all take a little money here, take a little money there, and they got the new guys involved, and they all went down. And then the sergeant, of course, testified against them all and didn't do any time, from what I understand.
Right.
But it happens. There's corruption everywhere, but not a lot. It doesn't spread through the entire department.
Well, not when. And here's the other part. I mean, so Gleason is working with two stone cold thugs and killers, right?
Yeah.
That ain't gonna happen. I'm sorry. I mean, just the fact that they're shooting people as they come in the store and killing them, so that
And they never lock the door.
They never locked the door. I go, why didn't they lock the door and just put closed on it? Another reason why it's unrealistic.
I mean, criminals are stupid, but they ain't that stupid.
No, not at all. Not at all. Now they go to a bar now, and they're meeting. So they've been asked to look at the murders. Been asked to look at the murders by Van Adder because he wants to, or Gleason because he wants to try and control the narrative. Yeah, and exactly. They go talk to robbery homicide. Here's the thing: robbery homicide ain't going to turn over a murder scene with a 5-person body count. That's a career maker for them. They ain't going to turn that over. They don't care how busy they are in other cases. And so another unbelievable thing where they're going to let SIS take the lead and do this because they're busy with other stuff. And of course, They show them in a bar drinking. Yeah. Again, I could it happen? Yeah. Does it happen that often? Probably not. I think that was a strip club too, as they were in.
Right. Well, you see the cop on the left there?
Yeah.
Remember, he was the bad cop that beat up the guys in the jail in City Confidential.
Yeah.
Beat up the Mexicans.
Yeah. Yes, I recognize that. But not believable, right? This is not. None of this is. They weren't a turn. Because the thing about robbery homicide, they're if you get into guys who are doing homicides, they're really good. They're good at their craft. They learn a lot, and people working SIS are probably good investigators, but they're just not that. They're not that narrowly specialized, right? So
they're more. SIS was more surveillance and shoot them up, whereas robbery homicide is like our homicide. If you're a slug, you're not going to be there very long. And these two guys that are in robbery homicide seem to be slugs.
Yeah, you can get burned out, but
exactly.
But okay, 5 bodies at one location.
Yeah,
you're not turning that one over, right?
Nope.
No.
Oh no.
Right?
No.
Not at all.
Your captain's not turning that one over. Your commander's not turning that over. And the chief is going to call Gleason or whatever and say, yeah, that didn't happen. To keep your guys out of the way.
Exactly.
If you want them to run leads, you handle some leads, okay, we'll let them do that, but they're not going to investigate it. So
Yeah,
again,
we in the gang unit, we ran a lot of people down for homicide, gang shootings, which the majority of murders in LA County are gang related. So, we did a lot of footwork for them, but it was their case. We had no illusions that we were taking over their case or anything. And that's one guy, Dad. I mean, so.
Yeah, right, exactly. And we have to point out, though, if you're an investigator and you got a big case, and it's you're the case ace, you're not just going to hand that off to somebody, particularly if it's in your lane. It's your stuff. You're a homicide, right?
Right.
You're not going to turn that over to anybody else. You're going to say, no, I'm in. This is what I live for. This is why I joined the law. I want to do this. I don't want to turn it over to you guys. And but we also the other storyline here is our chief here. He's played by give me his name.
Ving Rhames.
Ving Rhames. Yeah, I always like him as an actor. He's a good guy. He always.
He was in Mission Impossibles.
Yeah.
Con Air, Pulp Fiction. He's a great actor.
Yeah, I like him, but he plays the chief who's trying to take down Van Adder's team and SIS team, and
he's the deputy chief, and he wants to promote.
And I was thinking back, when this all happened, and they were trying to get rid of Daryl Gates right after Rodney King, there were a lot of chiefs jockeying for that to replace him, right? Yep. And Bernie Parks was probably one of them, right? He was around.
Yeah.
This is the Bernie Parks had kind of a reputation of going after guys, but they brought in Willie from Philly. They wanted an outsider, not an inside. Remember that?
Oh, he didn't even have a gun permit.
What a mistake!
Couldn't pass the test.
I know.
What a mistake.
So for the audience, they brought in Willie Williams from Philadelphia, which if you understand policing from Philadelphia, nothing against the coppers in Philadelphia versus LA, completely different styles, completely different mentality. I would say probably LAPD is much more rigid and structured than Philly, and that's what they needed, somebody who who understood the culture, and because it really wasn't. It was, maybe some breakdowns in attitudes on the LAPD, but they weren't corrupt. They were generally good at most of the stuff they did, right? So, but it was, what do they call it? Relating with the community. So we're going to bring a guy from another city to help them relate to the community here. It's, just never made sense to me. But Bernie Parks was maneuvering back then, right? And he didn't get the job, but he got the job right after they got rid of Willie from Philly, right?
Yeah, they realized what a big mistake that was. They put Bernie in there.
Yeah, but I
think it had a lot to do with race too.
Yeah, it did.
After the riot.
After the riot, and but those I felt this character and his, what does he play? I gave you the character's name. It's Chief Arthur Holland. That Holland's he represented that political maneuvering that black chiefs were probably doing at the time to try and come out as the chief, right? That stuff does happen, right? And I just read the shakeup of LAPD now. I guess McDonald demoted one chief down to commander, and I was just reading it today and just for the show, and elevated his number one competition. I think if she was a female black, up to a deputy chief, or the chief, like the number 3 person, and then the person who was the interim. I think he was the Asian guy. I think it was Choi or something like that. I can't remember his name now, but he made him the number 2. So, but there is all this political jockeying when these things happen. I know I retired as chief. Trust me, I was never good at that game. But there are guys. That's how they make their careers, is the political jockeying. I mean, I got scars in my back from being really poor at that game. Let's see. L.A. Confidential is a great film, and more than just an ordinary cast. Russell Crowe made his American debut in that picture. Yeah, he was great in that picture. He was great. I could watch it. Hey, sometimes you have a slow afternoon and LA Confidential's on. You watch it right again because it's such an interesting.
It's that well done, yeah.
Yeah, let's roll with the next. Let's see. The next thing is Sleeping with Bobby, and so we got another theme going on here. I like this. He does. I gotta talk about this. So he goes and gets some information. Right. He has somebody. This is Kurt Russell has somebody help him, and he says, well, "What do you want?" He goes, "Well, I want a fat burger." I go, "Okay, that's quintessentially L.A. right? Getting a fat burger because it started here in L.A. Fat burgers, right?"
Yeah.
And so that and what else? Kim runs, and so what he does is he gets information. So he's now investigating, and in between the last scene and this scene, we find out that the place that got robbed is owned by the Kims, which again, that's consistent with a lot of the stores down in the black communities. They were all Koreans, right? So, so they do kind of stay consistent with what was going on in LA at the time. But he also runs some strip clubs, and that he had a lot of money at the place, and that was the motive, right? Because Russell said, "Hey, why did they go upstairs? What was upstairs that they were seeking?" And of course, you should have just seen the big hole in the wall, and it was a safe. But I don't know why they.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, again, this is why. Why did they do that scene? Why did they just go upstairs and look at the big hole? Oh, he had a safe here. What was up there, right? And
Right.
So, but here's so here we got another theme. So we got let's see, our young SIS guy Kellogg is sleeping with a sergeant who is the aide to the chief. So there's kind of this incestuous thing going on there, which is
Well, he
does
didn't know
happen.
at the time.
He didn't know who she was, and I don't think she understood who
They didn't
he
give
was.
last names; they were just boinking.
Yeah, right. And I have to tell you, I was talking to some folks that were under the last administration. I won't say the chief's name, but there was a lot of shenanigans at the top in LAPD, and I was really surprised. I mean, I thought that would have ended about 10 years ago with all the Me Too stuff, but no, there's a lot of shenanigans going at the top. But it's also like we had one female commander sleeping with her sergeant. They both get drunk and they got in a car crash. Do you remember that one? That was 2 years ago. That wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, I remember hearing about it.
And but here she is, and she's a beautiful gal. She's a pretty gal. And but she is sleeping with one of the. And so I guess this just kind of intertwines the story. So all these are fictional characters in this story. But what do you think of just the way they're walking around investigating? These are guys that are like Kurt Russell's supposed to be the hip cop, I don't know. It just doesn't fit with me. That's not SIS to me. These are all kind of. I just think of them as more and more paramilitary kind of guys. I don't see him as looking like this with all this beautiful hair. I don't know, Scott. What do you think, Scott? These are all pretty boys. I see, SIS is all grizzled guys. I mean, I don't see them as these.
You saw the guys we worked with. I mean, how many real pretty boys were there?
Hey, I resemble that remark.
Yeah, and you are a pretty boy, John.
This is true. Used to be.
Our gang, our gang unit looked like a bunch of.
Yep.
Somebody said, "Oh, you look like Garbage Man." There's some plumbers. It's like,
yeah, these guys did well. Plus, when these guys go undercover, what's the first thing they grow a beard? They want to look like a biker or something. You know what I mean?
Just a slob. Yeah.
They don't look like this.
Yeah, you don't want to be. You don't want to be seen. You want to fit in and just.
Yeah.
And nobody noticed anything out of the usual. Well, both of them had a beautiful head of hair. I hate them.
Yeah, perfectly done too.
Yeah, every scene. So, and then of course, I'll just. I'm sorry. I think even in the 90s, having a beer at lunch while you're still working was that's not really acceptable, because didn't they start taking blood after shootings? I think they do. Do they? I don't know.
They used to.
I don't know. I never.
They want to make sure you're not under the influence.
Yeah, I never had to do it. So
you never. Okay. never been in a shooting, so I can't say for sure. No, but yeah, you smell alcohol in your breath, and that's presumptive. It's obviously they're not going to be. But I don't know. I just think this is unrealistic again. They're portraying a fictionalized version of how these guys conducting themselves. So here's our SIS is going to the hospital now, and they know that Kim had something there and some money there. That's what they were after. It wasn't just to rob the place. And now they try to talk to this guy who can't talk because he had his larynx shot, and he basically tells them it's a black and white team by writing it down, right? But I'm just struggling with. I'm sorry, I don't see robbery homicide letting the number one witness SIS talk to the number one witness. I just don't. What do you think, Scott? I know I asked this question, but this ain't gonna happen. They're not. They're gonna send you to shag down some gang members, but not going to let you talk to their primary witness, right?
No, we would have gaffled them up, took them back to, arrested them for something, or I mean, most of the time it was, they would ask us to find guys. Hey, we need to talk to this guy. Can you find him? So we would find people for him. We wouldn't necessarily question them, but we would. Like I had a lot of informants, so if there was a murder, I usually could find out who did it.
Right.
And then, I'd tell homicide, hey, I just talked to one of my informants. They said we should start looking at this guy, and then let them run with it.
Right.
Because I'm not going to give up and that's another thing. You don't just give up your informants to anybody who asks for them.
No.
So.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a divining rod, right?
Right.
Okay, I think there's water there. I think that's it. Now let's go see if there's water there. There's evidence there, to put it on the guy, But so here we got Kurt Russell. He's saying, hey, I think I know who they are. I got the salt and pepper team. This is how they acted. I think they're your whatever. Your guys, Orchard and Sidwell. And this is where you realize, okay, we already know he's corrupt. But now this is where he tells Kurt Russell, this is what I expect you to do. You need to find somebody else. It's not them.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
No. And then the fact that he got so angry about it ought to tell you that something's up.
Right. And this is where, okay, so maybe you've done some bad things with this guy before, but now he's asking you to set up two people for multiple homicides when you have a pretty good idea who did it. There is related to him, and that there's a lot of money outstanding. So he's got to link this. I mean, he's got all that great hair. He's got to have some brain cells in there. He knows what's going on.
Oh, he knows, but the problem is he's already dirty. He's already killed people for Van Meter.
Right.
So he knows what's going on, but at the same time, his moral is like,
Yeah, we got to talk about it. It comes out later on the film, but he his grandpa worked for the LAPD, his dad worked for the LAPD, he's working for the LAPD. Van Meter knew his dad, and so there's this, and sometimes they cut corners going after the real crooks in the past, but that seems to have gotten perverted. Like, okay, we decide who the crooks are that are going to go down, and we'll ignore some of the other ones. That and we got to frame other people so that basically he's saying you got to frame these guys so that I can be free. And I think our guy Perry here, Kurt Russell's character, he's figuring that out, but he's not going to stand up against him.
Right.
This is the stuff where I just think is bullshit, right?
Yeah, why don't you go murder somebody? Two innocent, well, not so innocent guys criminally, but for this, they're innocent. And it's like, yeah, go murder these two guys, set it all up, go get a bogus warrant, all that crap.
Yep.
But I can't say that. I wouldn't say judges are that easy or pushover.
Oh, I know. Did you see that where it just shows up at a bar and he's getting a martini, the judge, and
the judge, yeah.
Again, unbelievable. No way. I think there were some judges that were more diligent than others, but they all at least took a cursory look to see if you had the basic probable cause for the warrant, right?
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah, and that you at least wrote it there, whether it's true or not is, and in this case,
he actually did enough search warrants. You had judges that you had built a rapport with,
right?
So the first couple times you go to them, they probably they've looked it over very well. And then after, the fourth or fifth one, they look at it and they make sure all the probable causes are, but they don't get into all the minutia because they basically trust that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and they sign them.
All right.
But just going, hey, here's your martini, now sign my warrant.
Right, I know, and then he goes to a DA, and I guess he's got her cold, and he expects her to write it, which DAs don't write warrants. So with that, I didn't believe that either.
No.
You write them, and you have a DA review it. At least that's what I did. I guess you didn't have to do that.
They check it off, and that's it.
We had that process when I was a station detective. You might have had a little more freedom, Scott, in your thing, and then you went to the judges, and the judge just signed them, right? And then you got your warrant, whether it was a search warrant or arrest warrant, whatever. But yeah, that was again unbelievable, But I have to, just because we have the audience here, I got to talk about this. Okay, so right now the Tulsi Gabbard released a bunch of information that it was actually at the highest levels of the government that laid the groundwork for the warrants, the FISA warrants that were written to spy on Trump, right? And this is my biggest issue with this. The whole thing's bad, right? The whole thing's bad. But what really gets me is that the senior management of the FBI and the Department of Justice, because we just had somebody sentenced in the Breonna Taylor case. In that case, the investigators bootstrapped information, lied in their affidavit to get into Breonna Taylor's house. The people executing the warrant didn't write it. They get in a shootout. One guy gets shot. They end up killing Breonna Taylor. And the feds prosecuted those guys who wrote the false information in the search warrant. The same feds who then allowed for a fabricated warrant to go to the FISA court so that they could then get Trump's files. That's it's like, for me, the connection's real easy. You can't be the agency that enforces the law over law enforcement, meaning civil rights violations, because that's a civil rights violation. If you lie on a search warrant and you violate somebody's Fourth Amendment rights, that's a civil rights. That's a violation, right? Violation of the constitutional rights. Boom, easy. And they do it all the time against local cops, as they should when local cops lie. But then the senior management, the top level of the FBI, did it. And that's the part I don't get. Why I know why the media's not covering it, because they're down with the cause. But that is so basic to me, and I don't understand why all Americans don't understand it. I don't know, John. What do you think?
Well, the Americans don't understand it, and we've got to do better to explain it to them. But it's hard. Most people aren't that educated. But the brass they've been corrupt for years. When you have a sister that works for this, and your brother is in charge of the funding of the Clinton Foundation, and your name's James Comey, and you don't like Trump, and you're a liberal, and Obama tells you to do something, shit, yeah, let's get him. All those guys should be in jail, every one of them.
Yeah. So Scott, when you wrote search warrants as the affiant, you're responsible for all that information that goes in that warrant. You're attesting under the penalty of perjury and whatever that everything that you write in that is to be true, or you have strong, like you got the information from other cops, so you believe it to be true. And if you knowingly lie, you can get prosecuted, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. We had someone get prosecuted.
Who?
We had someone get prosecuted.
Yeah, because they cut corners. The way I looked at it is, hey, don't worry about it. The guy will commit another crime. We'll get him tomorrow, right?
Right.
Because he's a crook. He's going to do it again. We're going to get him. So I never worried about if I didn't have enough probable cause or enough to get him that time. He'll give me another opportunity because that's who he is, right?
Right.
I just got to wait. But that's what drives me crazy. It's like, how come, because I think that's pretty basic. When cops violate your constitutional rights, your Fourth Amendment rights, people get mad, right? They recognize that, but for whatever reason, because it's against Trump and it's digital files, they don't compare to. I mean, because if you look at Watergate, for example. So former intelligence operatives called the plumbers, right, working for the Nixon administration or at least his campaign, break into the Democratic National Headquarters to look at their files to see who's leaking and what's there. Okay, so that's 70s. Fast forward to 2016, they gin up a false warrant to break into Trump's files, which are digital, to see what's there. It's the same freaking thing, and I don't understand why people can't see that. This is just as bad, if not worse, because you're not using operatives that are contract operatives or former. You're using the real CIA, the real FBI to do it. That's
the reason being, it's the media. When Nixon was out there, every media was against Nixon, and they showed, he did this, and how bad it is, and so everybody believed that. I think it was a hit piece on they wanted to get rid of Nixon.
Yeah.
But you look at this, and the media didn't like Trump. Nobody liked Trump. And whatever was being done, they didn't look into it. They didn't want to. And even if they did know about a dirty search warrant, they didn't say a damn thing. They let it roll.
Yeah, that's
lack of ethics, lack of morals.
All the way to the top of the FBI, though. That's the part that bothers me. So, Martine, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, is there any integrity left in the media?
No, I don't think so. It's all about selling ad space and clicks and headlines for advertising, or advocacy journalism. I believe in this, so I'm going to advocate that way, no matter how stupid I sound. But they do it. They keep doing it every day, and the CNN's viewership is going down. MSNBC is going. They just keep going down lower and lower and lower. It's crazy, and they're talking about firing a bunch of the people at CNN because they're just not making money. They're losing like 50 million a year. It's crazy. So, anyway, we're at half point, guys. So,
yes.
Martine, are you ready?
Yes, I am. So,
all right, take it away. We'll be back in 2 minutes, guys.
See ya.
There's only one location on the internet where you can get it all: movie, TV, and comic industry. News and rumor analysis, official scoops from Geekosity magazine, reviews, and interviews. So, when you need it to be Sunday, there's only one place to go, mate. Pop Culture Minefield, where they're always talking nerd stuff. Right, jog on then. There's only one location on the internet where you can get it all: movie, TV, and comic industry. News and rumor analysis, official scoops from Geekosity magazine, reviews, and interviews. So, when you need it to be Sunday, there's only one place to go, mate. Pop Culture Minefield, where they're always talking nerd stuff. Right, jog on then.
Welcome back to Morning Coffee with the Chief. We got here comes Scott back, and we can let's see where John is at. Let's see if he gets back up here.
Yeah. He's still connected, but he's not
Okay. Just want to remind folks that you can catch us every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Just follow us on Rumble and subscribe on YouTube and help us get our subscriptions up there so we are moved ahead of the algorithms there, so people will watch our show. Hey, let's roll with Messing with the Chief, because I got to make up some time here. We've been doing a lot of gabbing about politics in this movie, but so this was, I do believe this, though. I think if somebody has some dirt on an executive, they'll use it. In this case, they do use it. Apparently, our chief here has a wandering eye, and he's cheated on his wife. And somebody has pictures. She already knew about it, but now the pictures are out there, and it makes it a little more difficult for her because, you know, as you get cheated on, it's all about pride, right? Pride and humiliation. And I don't think it's unusual that executives cheat on their spouses.
No.
I wasn't one of them, but, you know, man, there ended up being a few that I was aware of that, like, yeah, why are you doing that, man? You're risking everything. So. And so the pictures are out, and they're trying to take this guy down, right? So got a mailbox full of pictures, right? So this part, I believe, Scott, right? You believe that, you know, these guys know the dirt on each other, and they'll use it against each other if they have to.
Oh yeah, and it came from, remember, Van Meter's the one that gave him the envelope and told him to stick the pictures in his mailbox.
Yeah.
So
Van Meter, he's this, you know, and that's it's yes, the old LAPD, and even the accusations of the sheriff's department and their hat squad, the intelligence squads, is they're getting dirt on all the political leaders and they use it against people, right?
yeah,
And that's a la that, and I believe that kind of stuff did happen, right? I believe there was a lot of political horse trading if they found that you had some picadillos or some problems in your background, that they could leverage it and use it against you. Here's the other thing: is this chief was interviewed for Cleveland PD to be the chief of Cleveland PD, and that has been happening the last 20 years. If you're a quality minority or woman executive at these large police departments, you get recruited to interview at a lot, you know, like Cleveland or you know, other places, Seattle. You know, because they're looking for. I guess that's the theme of the day. Let's get somebody from somewhere else because we got problems, and let's try and make sure they're a minority woman so that we can, you know, look like we're being, I don't know, responsive to the community, you know. And yet most of these guys, most of the people I met, no matter who they were, if they were LAPD, they bled blue, right? Same with us, tan and green. Didn't matter your race, didn't matter your color. Everybody had kind of the same value system, but it did give them a little bit of advantage there for a while. I think still today, you know, if you're a solid minority or woman deputy chief on LAPD or sheriff or somewhere else, you were marketable around the country. Some of these smaller PDs that were looking for change, right? And here's the other thing that I felt was accurate, and this is going to the black churches to get support. That does happen, right? Right, Scott?
yeah, yep.
Because was it the First AME Church? They do have political clout in the city, and that's not unusual.
Well, it's like any politician, though. You know, guys running for sheriff. Where do they go? Well, they go to the Asian and the Hispanic communities.
Yes.
To get their support, because, you know, the county, most of the areas of the county are made up of, you know, Asian and whites and Hispanic, where most of the city of LA is black. So that's where they go.
Black and Latino. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's who they. So all politicians do it, but
yeah,
when you're jockeying for position, you got.
Yes.
Well, you got here. It seems like he's a member of the congregation anyway. So.
Yeah, it does, but this is not unusual at all, as far as I'm concerned, right?
No, not at all.
And so that was consistent with what was going on at the time, you know, because after Rodney King, I don't see me. So John says he's there. Martina is he backstage at all?
Says I am. Oh, there I am.
There you are. Okay.
Yeah, I was back a while ago.
All right. Well, we had some
Yeah,
complaints from.
you were
We
talking
had some.
about dropping dirt on everybody. That was SIS has had a big job doing that with LAPD. But also, remember back in the day, it was rumored, Peter Pitches came from the FBI, and he had dirt on all the city councilmen or the county supervisors, and so did Block. And a lot of times when they wanted to cut budget or do this and that, they'd argue, and Block would go in and talk to him, and sure enough, 2 days later, we're getting our money. Whereas when Alex went in and everybody else, they didn't know how to maneuver the board. But that was the rumor that they had a lot of clout. They had clout because they had dossiers on everybody.
Right.
Isn't that how Hoover stayed as the head of the FBI for so long?
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So this is not out of the realm of thing, but also, John, we talked about lobbying the black churches.
AME
for support for getting first AME.
Yeah, that when we saw that scene, that was true to life.
Yeah, I felt that was true, and that stuff did happen, and so that. So yeah, that's why I like this, because it, like I said, there's a lot of truth to how things played out. It's just this fictional crime stuff is crazy, where the cops are as corrupt as they're showing in this film, and that they would work with a couple of stone cold killers like Sidwell and Orchard here. I just don't see that at all as truthful at all. So, but hey, whatever. And also the same thing. Did you hear my comments about, if you're a solid minority or woman deputy chief or assistant chief, you are marketable around the country for chiefs of police jobs. Right?
Oh yeah, big time.
That still goes on today. They tend to recruit them, and for big cities that are looking for change and a new perspective, that kind of thing. Kind of like how Willie from Philly came to L.A. Same kind of thing happens. Go the other way, right?
The only problem is Willie had no clue.
Yeah, it's
he didn't have the background. Never should have hired him.
No.
Just because he was black, that's fine, but he had no knowledge of police work, really.
Well, he was, what was it? It was
park police.
He was big on community-oriented policing in Philly, right? And that's different than LA, right? I mean, Philly's more of a condensed city. It's an older city, older neighborhoods,
smaller,
much smaller, and that's just one facet of police work. So, right, just one facet. You have to have you have to have everything else, right? So
yeah, he had no. In fact, he had no. What's the word I'm looking for? Cred. Street cred, whatever cred, because nobody wanted to listen to him, whether it's his staff at LAPD or his underlings or the whole, ground force, the ground pounders. Nobody respected him.
Right.
Nobody. And that was the worst thing they did to LAPD.
Right. And then they always seem to come in and they put, their people in high positions, and then they wonder why things don't work out. It's because you have all these people that are going, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, that sounds good. But nobody's
saying
we're coming in to change LAPD. So we're not going to take anything that you guys have to say because you're LAPD. We're going to do it the way we did it in Philly. Well, or wherever. This is the way we did it. And,
and they're the ones who bombed the apartment buildings, right, and burned them down.
Oh God, yeah.
Happened? Yes, so it's like, and this
what was that chief's name? Frank something or other.
Rizzo.
Frank Rizzo, yeah.
Frank Rizzo, yeah, and
Mayor Rizzo, yeah. He was a chief, then he was the mayor. The
move, yeah. So, anyways, when you look back, you look at some of the eastern state, because LAPD and the sheriff's department, I don't want to say they're better. They just migrated in a different direction in how they conduct themselves. Very much more rigid and militaristic than back east, where it's, you know what I mean. And they had a much, I would say, long standing embracing of corruption that they have to constantly focus on and weed out. it's just a different mentality in policing is kind of the way I see it.
Oh,
And
total different.
And I don't mean to denigrate anybody else, because you're trying to, the definition of a professional is somebody who's constantly trying to improve their trade craft. But where you start at is where you're improving from, right? You know what I mean? So,
well, classic example of that, Pat, is, do you ever watch Live PD?
yes.
I can't watch it because it's like, what the hell is this guy doing? Why is he walking up? And if you watch, like when they show and I'm not saying like you were saying, I'm not saying other departments are bad or that we're better than them or whatever. But if you watch that show, you can see how the cops on the West Coast or the Western states do it totally different than the guys in South Carolina or Georgia. And it's
Big time.
and then when you look at death stats, it's like, well, you're having more cops killed in the eastern states than you are the western states. There might be a correlation between tactics.
Yes, right. Tactics and attitude, yes. How you approach people, yes.
So if you just watch that show, you can see the difference of how things are done.
Yeah, and it's not like all, because I saw a real migration in my opinion, from NYP to a more professionalized model, and I think they're stepping back a little bit, but not because of poor leadership, not because of the coppers are bad. Just there's the expectations have been lowered, is the way I see it. And the thing about it, when you challenge them with good expectations, deputy sheriffs and police officers step up to meet those expectations, and they generally embrace good tactical training. And anyway, so it's a different stuff. So we're getting way off subject here. Let's roll with the next framing innocent guys. So this is what we talked about, where we got another salt and pepper team that they've identified, which is probably hard to do. Back then, it was salt and pepper teams were probably not that out there that much, given the racial divide in LA at the time. But they find another or a couple of guys, a black and white guy, that they're going to frame for this. And this is where here we go. And so this guy is begging for his life. Like I said, I just can't see anybody doing this where they just execute him in cold blood. And if I'm keyhole here, and I'm gonna tell my partner Perry, do it yourself, right? I'm not gonna shoot him. You do it. You said, if you can't do it, I'm gonna do it. Go ahead then. I'm not involved, right? And then of course we got a witness here. It's funny because she shows up in another scene, completely unrelated, I believe. And I don't know. Again, this is unbelievable. I don't see this happening where we just have straight executions. But that's what they're showing here. What do you think, Scott? Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, you're just basically going to go out and execute these guys on the word of your commander.
Yeah.
And the helicopter flying around and all the guys on the ground.
Yeah.
Really? That was
you're just gonna.
Sorry.
As soon as the helicopter light goes out, shoot him.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I don't have that mentality, I guess, as somebody telling me to murder somebody.
Yeah, I guess I got to frame this. So prior to this part, they worked with the SWAT team, LAPD SWAT team, to take these two guys down that are in a location as the SWAT team's going up. Because I couldn't believe this either. Kurt Russell's character calls them up to wake them up so that they get armed as the SWAT team goes in. No way that's going to happen. Even if you're a corrupt guy, you're not going to put your SWAT guys at risk like that. And of course, the black part of the salt and pepper team, you never really see it, but you hear the shooting and he's killed. And then this guy runs away, and this is when this happens. I'm sorry, Scott, I cut you off. But yeah, just unbelievable. And what do you think about the phone call in? That's crazy too. That's no way.
So far-fetched. And then you have LAPD SWAT, which even I'll admit is probably one of the top SWAT teams in the country. Let a guy run out the back.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
I'm like, what? we didn't decide. But the funny thing is, I did a ride along up in Washington State. The deputies were going after a probation guy, felony probation, and nobody watched the back door. I did. They're like, "Where are you going?" I go, "I'm just going to be back here by the back door." They let me be armed, and the guy starts to come out the back door, and I'm like, "No, don't do it."
So I got a brand new sergeant at Carson Station rolling to I don't know, it was a 459 now or whatever, it was 9 now, and I get the typical, "Hey Sarge, can you take the back?" You guys getting rid of the new sergeant, put him on the back, right?
Right.
And sure enough, they're going in the
SOP.
front. SOP for you guys.
Yeah.
And oh my God, he's going out the back. And of course, I'm waiting there, He comes out the back, and I got him proned out when the deputies come running around. I said, "Yeah, go ahead and hook him up, guys. The next time, don't put me in the back." That was my comment. I go to the front. Somebody else takes the back. Got it? Oh, yes, sir. So put him in the back. But you're right. I didn't even think of that, Scott, but you're right. What'd you think of the scene, John? Unbelievable.
Oh, it's
unrealistic.
It's totally far-fetched.
Right, and he'd never call in and put the SWAT guy, even if you're.
Oh God, no.
No way,
No,
they wouldn't do that.
You know, funny is like you think, well, if they arrest the guy and they don't kill him, and he says, "Yeah, somebody called it in," and you're like, "What?" You put two and two together. It's just the whole thing is just so far-fetched.
Yeah, didn't we have somebody who years ago, maybe it was the late '60s, did that on the sheriff's department, Armstrong or something like that? He called into a place, or I can't remember the name of it. He called into a place and then went there, and then there was a shooting and somebody got.
That was at Temple Station.
Was it Temple Station?
Yeah.
He called in as the informant, right?
Yeah.
And then they go there, and I think they were bad guys, but still, you can't call in the exigent circumstances and then say it's exigent.
Right.
And when a shooting occurred, and I think he went to prison for 10 or 12 years. That guy. So I mean. Yeah, and our writer probably knows all this history, and so he just kind of blends stuff in that happened over 50 years and put it all in this time frame, which makes it unrealistic because you're talking about events that are very infrequent. They're very infrequent, rarely happen, and he blends them all in 1.5 hour movie. All the things that all these true stories or snippets of storyline based upon true stories all occur in 1.5 hours, which makes it really unbelievable, right? So
yeah. You know, another one similar to this is Street Kings with Keanu Reeves, where they're playing, dirty cops and everything else.
Yeah, and we got to talk about this because one of the things somebody did Bad Lieutenant with me. I don't know who did Bad Lieutenant with me. And
that was Harvey Keitel, but I don't know.
Right, I did the movie, and one of the reasons I explained, and I'll explain on this side, one of the reasons why I don't like doing all these movies where they portray the cops as really being evil and bad is because it just doesn't happen that often. It's so infrequent, but it is interesting storylines, and it causes people to actually believe the stuff that they show, but it's simply just not true.
Exactly.
But it makes for a good story, right? And people want to believe it. That's the other part. People want to believe that it's true.
Like the scene right now. I mean, homicide doesn't come in when they come in to interview you on a shooting. They don't coach you through it.
No.
And then when you don't give them the answers that they want, they don't stop the tape. Because first thing somebody, if it went to a wrongful death or anything, and then the first question is why'd you stop the tape? I mean, it doesn't. What? So you can switch the tape and then do it all over? I mean, it doesn't happen that way. They come in, they ask you what happened, and usually it's not just them. It's a DA. It's the internal affairs.
Yep.
Homicide leads the questioning. You sit there and you run your story by, and then they ask you again, and then they ask you again, and then it goes around to the other people are there. The DA DA starts asking you questions, and then internal affairs asks you stupid questions. And, like mine's like, why was your gun off safe? Oh, I don't know. because it does. The bullets don't fly out of it when it's on safe. I mean, come on.
Exactly.
I mean, come on. That's what you're gonna ding me on? Is my gun was off safe?
Homicide and internal affairs.
Yeah, so it's so even back then in '92 or '94, when or '92 when this was,
I can attest to how they interviewed you.
Yeah, because he still had the DA rollout team, right?
Yep.
Right. Which would roll out to the crime scenes and kind of bird dog the homicide investigation, right? During this police shooting, and that was not just for the sheriffs. That was with LAPD, so it's anywhere in LA County. And then you had generally internal affairs would be right there, even on LAPD and the hip pocket of homicide, monitoring the investigation for potential policy violations, right?
Yeah, and you're usually the shooter's usually the last guy interviewed.
Right. And so in this case where the homicide guy's, okay, let's start over, because and this is a Freudian thing. Yeah, he's supposed to. So he shoots him, but he's supposed to say that. I didn't understand that. Didn't make any sense. You tell him I shot him, right?
Yeah, I didn't even get that at the beginning of the movie.
I didn't understand that. What is you shoot him, and I'll tell him that I shot him, and then they get the story mixed up. It's again, this doesn't make any sense, because
honestly, of course, this whole movie to me was like a hit piece. I mean, they showed everybody in LAPD was corrupt.
Yeah, I've never seen so many corrupt cops.
Yeah,
or dunderheads.
Single good. The chief is supposed to be, a stand-up guy, but then you find out that he's sleeping with that young gal.
Yep.
And then she's sleeping with Kehoe, the young SIS guy, and it's like it's totally showed LAPD in like this whole corrupt light, and it was like, to me, it was like Training Day. What's the other one? I mean, to me, it was kind of based on like. Who's the guy that the narco guy that got in a shootout with the cop at another LAPD guy at the he worked Crash.
Yeah, it was I could see the names of the two guys. It was a black guy that was a uniform officer, and it was a undercover narco guy.
Yeah,
over north. It happened in North Hollywood. Yeah,
and it was based on Training Day was based on him.
Yeah, Gaines
going around ripping off drug guys and stuff like that, and so it was kind of like a
Rafael Perez. Yeah, Rafael Perez and his partner. Yeah, it was based on that. Go. Yeah, so but I agree with you. It does portray LAPD, and that sells. Well, I guess it didn't sell in this case because it was poorly.
No, it did not sell at all.
and maybe that's why our writer Elroy didn't like it, because maybe it deviated too much. It just didn't make sense. I go, this is, if you look at LA Confidential, he weaves a believable story, fictional story, into these two events, right?
Right.
And he flat out said, "This is ridiculous. Don't associate my name with this."
Yeah. So anyway, so that's some bad movie making. They stray too far from the book, and but even the Black Dahlia. I mean, that's a true story, and you have to put some truth in there, right? But then the fictional side of that is it's almost believable, a partner getting it, because I think one of it, but yeah, it just didn't. And plus the storyline just kind of choppy. But let's roll with the next scene, and this is Comes Clean. So he's done the shooting, and he's struggling with his. This is Kehoe. He's struggling with his conscience, and he decides to come clean. And he comes clean to his girlfriend here, and tells her what's going on. And now she's putting it all together, right? And she encourages him to go to the chief, right? And I didn't realize that they called it the Jack of Heart case, but because that's consistent with what was the Night Owl case in the Night Owl case in LA Confidential. So he's got so the writer's got a flair for naming events, right? So if you remember it, so a few nights ago we were so. But this does happen. We have a lot of these affairs with sergeants sleeping with detectives and that kind of stuff. That stuff happens, right, John? I'll ask you. You'd be the expert on this stuff, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It does happen, right?
Oh, true. It does.
Yeah, it's
Very seldom.
Very seldom. Oh, I had this gal interview for a position, and she, find out later she was sleeping with a subordinate, and I encouraged her. I was the buffer. I was interviewing for somebody else. She wanted to work for somebody else higher than me. And I encouraged her. I said, we have a spot on the early morning shift. I suggest you go work the early morning shift and get a lot of experience being a watch commander, because you'll need that experience more than you'll need administrative experience to be a good lieutenant. She said, no, I want to go the administrative route. I counseled against giving her the job. She didn't get the job. She transferred somewhere else. She got caught fooling around with somebody else at her new command and never made it past sergeant. So that's what happens, and she worked for, I guess she ended up working for a guy I don't want to say this in a negative way, but he's a person of faith, hardcore person of faith. So that stuff happens. And for me, it was...
There was one on our department that all the way up to the top. Yep. That last time I saw her, she was a commander.
Really? For me, I just saw that as all danger. Danger, Will Robinson. Just stay away from that stuff, because all this can do is hurt your career. That's how I saw it.
Yeah.
And hurt your family. But
well, they all think nobody knows.
I know. Hey, we're just friends. We're just, no, that's
exactly.
Yeah.
So here, our guy, he goes and talks to the chief, and the chief he wants to take down
Van
Meter, and he also wants to take down Perry, Kurt Russell's character, Eldon. He's been after him for a long time, and this is his chance. This guy comes clean, and he has to know that he's going to be going to prison himself, because he's basically killed 2 people. I mean, the first shooting sounds like it was bad, although he gets cleared in that, and this one's definitely bad. But we all know how it works. If you're going to turn state's evidence, you got to tell the truth about everything, right? And so he can't be lying about anything, otherwise you lose your credibility for everything, right, Scott? That's how it works.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You impeach yourself if you don't.
Yeah.
So every bad thing he did, he's now got a cop to. Otherwise, and they did that with Rafael Perez. If you remember, he had to tell now I think he embellished. I personally think Rafael Perez embellished a ton to get himself out of trouble and laid out a bunch of guys at Rampart.
Well, it changed our department.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had an incident at Compton with the detective, and even though it could have been handled completely different, our captain at the time was like, I don't want a LAPD crash incident on this department. So they went full force, and it turned out biting them in the butt, because they didn't follow policy when they went after the detective. They did stuff that was like, and I don't know if it was done wrong just so he wouldn't get in trouble or whatever, but it was like, just based on what LAPD had done, I don't want that kind of incident under my command. We're going to do this, this, and this. And it's like, why?
Oh, they protected him.
Well, no, they blew it out of proportion, and then it came back to bite them in the ass, because we don't want to. And then what happens? She gets promoted, even though it was a complete cluster. He retired medically, and she promoted, and everybody else involved got promoted. And then the rest of us got stuck with all these policies that we could never adhere to.
Which is what happens. Policies are built upon what they see as failures. I read a book decades ago that is, The Death of Common Sense, How Rules and Regulations Are Suffocating America. It was a great book. But when you start looking at, they put rules and regulations in place and how it hampers you from getting the job done, right? And I mean, in LA, the big thing is all these rules and regulations about housing. Why do you think we have a housing shortage? It's because of all the rules and regulations and the high energy costs. That's why we have high housing costs. It isn't because of greedy developers and all that other stuff. It's because of poor public policy. But to get the LA Times to investigate into that is crazy. That can't happen. So here's the other part. So Van Meter realizes it's getting close. That it's getting close to him. That he knows that there's a witness. He doesn't. I don't know if he realizes the witness is Kehoe, but he knows there's a witness, and he needs to tie up the loose end. And the loose end is Perry, Eldon Perry. Yeah, it's Kurt Russell's character, and he now sets him up. Yeah, the film called Narc. With Ray Lee, I think I've been wanting to do that one. I haven't done that one yet, where Ray plays an undercover boss who goes haywire, beating up two hipsters after he said, yeah, I'll have to look at that one. Like I said, I have a hard time doing these cop corruption ones because it's so blown out of proportion. I will say the ones that I have done based upon New York, based upon true stories, like Prince of the City is based upon true story, right? And Serpico is based upon a true story. There was endemic corruption back then, but it was a lot of, it wasn't cops killing other cops. It was just getting their piece of the pie off the corruption, the drug sales and the bookmaking and things that are going on. I don't want to say this garden variety corruption, but that's what it's more typically like, right? You're going to get a little piece of the action if you turn a blind eye. That's I don't want to say that's nothing's acceptable about corruption, but that is generally what happens, not this kind of stuff where you're
right. It's like NYPD, all these guys I know that were from there, they said, back in the day, there's every day it's no parking on one side of the street for street cleaning. You park on that side, you're going to get towed. You don't want to get towed?
Yes.
Play the street cop. And that went on for years. Yep,
and everybody making money. Well, hey, Gambit, if you like Gleason, I want to recommend a movie, The Guard. It's based in Ireland. He plays an Irish cop. Great movie, funny movie, black comedy. You would like it. We reviewed that movie already here on Morning Coffee with the Chief. Yeah, so he's coming clean, and of course our chief is salivating, right? What's he salivating about? Do you think he really cares about? He wants a clean LAPD, but
he wants to be the new chief.
Yeah, you got it right. That's exactly right.
Chief, he wants that promotion, and now he's going to get it because Van Meter is his only competition.
Well, Van Meter is the one that's undercutting him. He knows it, right, with the picture. And Van Meter is a thorn in the side. But if he takes down a corrupt commander and a collection of guys at SIS, he's it. He's the guy. He's the star, right? And so, and so just as much as solving a case of with 5 homicides makes the homicide detective, doing something like this, taking down a bunch of corrupt cops, will make the police chief, right? So, go ahead, Scott.
So this guy comes to you and tells you about this massive corruption, murders, conspiracy, all this kind of stuff, and you tell him to go back to work.
Yeah. I know. And you're going to be guarding that guy because he's your linchpin.
Right.
I know. I get it.
Or if you need more info, you're going to wire him and send him in. You're going to have teams all over the place.
Right.
Yeah. You're going to call the chief and you're going to have a meeting one-on-one, and you're going to say, I need a handful of people we can trust to run an investigation. Heck, you might even just call the feds. Let's just call the feds in. Right.
Yeah, I would have just said, call the FBI and let's just put this guy in protective custody right now with the U.S. Marshals.
Yep.
And let's bring in the FBI.
Yep.
Because, if you're already dealing with massive corruption on a department, and then you're going to trust the department, you're going to trust the department to do the right thing. So.
Yeah, but this also goes to political ambitions too.
Right.
I turn it over to the FBI and they take all the glory. I want a part of this, right? It's that's why this is a bad film. And I don't know if the storyline, what the storyline of this book, but you're right. You're 100% right. I'd be protecting him like he's the golden goose.
Exactly.
Right.
And then your Perry or Elrod or whatever it is, the guy, your boss is the leader of all this, telling you to go out and murder people, and then he gives you an address to go to, and you call your other buddy who runs it and tells you who it is. What do you think's going to happen? You think he's sending you there? Why all of a sudden? Because I would have been like, he's going to kill me. I'm not going to play in there. I'm not going to that house no matter what happens.
Yeah, I'm going to be dropping my own dime, right? I'm going to be making phone calls myself.
Did you go to the address? Yeah, I went there. Nobody was home.
Yes.
Nobody answered the door.
Okay, so this is what I got out of that. When he calls somebody, hey, could you check this locale? Is anybody around working at it? To me, that sounded like whizzing, right? Where you're, hey, I've got to do an op here. Anybody else looking at this location? What do they know about the location?
Right.
You want to explain that so our audience understands what that is? It's kind of just a clearinghouse, right?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, you just call, there's a number, and you call that unit. Usually it was under, can't remember who it was, Clear, LA Clear.
Yes.
Yeah, Haida.
Yeah, so you call them and you tell them, hey, you don't tell them the particulars. You just say, hey, we're looking at this address to do a possible search warrant. That's all you tell them. You don't tell them what it's about or anything. And they'll come in back and say, FBI is doing an investigation on that location. So then they would say, we'll speak to the FBI, and then they'd call you back if it was anything and say, hey, FBI says hands off. So then you're like, okay.
That's what I got. When I was watching this film, that's what it seemed like to me what he was doing. I don't know if you felt that way.
Yeah, but I think he called the guy, whoever it was before, to get some information on him. But he calls you up and says, hey, there's a witness at this address. And that address isn't how did he become a witness? The only person you saw was that little girl in the window.
Right.
And you're in a completely different area than where he's sending you.
Right.
And all of a sudden male Hispanic. What?
Yeah. It didn't make any sense.
Killed.
Well, then he goes there. He finds out that it is related to our two bad guys, Sidwell and Orchard, and he still goes there by himself.
Right.
Right.
That's why I'm like, this is bullshit.
Yeah. Because even if you're going to go there, you're going to go there with a team, right? You're not going to go there by yourself.
Yeah,
right?
by yourself. Yeah.
Well, I think he realizes that it's a setup.
Right. But he still goes
by himself.
Yeah. It's all Hollywood. Stupid.
And then your golden goose goes there with your administrative sergeant.
Right.
Just the two of them.
Right.
And gets obliterated with a machine gun.
It's like, come on.
But the girl doesn't get hit at all.
Well, she's got a vest on. He doesn't have a vest on.
Yeah.
That drove me crazy too. What do you mean you're going to go there and you're not going to have a vest? It's not going to be.
When I was watching it, I said, "Oh, no vest." Okay.
Hey, how come the cops that always get kills in movies are the ones they either get shot, 30 times, and then they all of a sudden sit up and they tear their shirt open and they're wearing a vest,
right?
Or they get killed and everybody else is wearing a vest, but
they're not. And the other part I didn't believe, they're on the roof, right? These guys,
right.
they're going to be down low. They're going to try and get you as you're coming through the door. They're not going to try and snipe you from the roof with a shotgun.
Exactly.
Things, right? So it just didn't make sense to me. None of this made sense to me, at least from plot line. Let's roll the last scene, and I got this written as Sidwell Van Meter, and it's really the takedown. This is we see Sidwell by the farm here. So basically, after shooting Bobby and a shootout with Perry or Russell's character, our two bad guys managed to escape and get in a car just as the riots have already started. And I think it's almost poetic that, this salt and pepper team is driving down the street. Go ahead and roll the scene. Do you have the scene, Sidwell? I forget what I called it. You get the last scene, Martine. And, but then as he's driving through the crowd, which is thoroughly believable, Sidwell gets yanked out of the car, and he gets beat to death because he's white. Because that's what was happening. People were getting ripped out of the cars and were getting beaten. We saw what happened to Reginald Denny. He's lucky to be alive. He was pulled out of his truck and beaten near half to death. And the interesting thing is what I thought was interesting about all of these scenes is, so Kurt Russell, also white, in his car, he stops and and nobody seems to bother him for the few seconds they need to take the shot, and then he gets bothered and then drives off again. But it does portray the looting, though. Business were getting broken into, getting looted, and they burned out. But I thought it was a fitting demise for Sidwell, who's the white guy who was killed.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because he killed the 4 people, I think, in the store. I mean, he's a stone cold killer, and he gets beat to death. Certainly consistent with what was happening during the riot. So definitely some street justice there, right, Scott?
Oh yeah, that was probably my favorite part of the movie. But it was very fitting.
Yeah,
and I love how his crimey. He's Orchard's like, no, he's cool.
Yeah. and they're not. And of course, he takes off because he's like, okay, this crowd is unpredictable. I'm going to get out of too. And he recognizes that Kurt Russell is chasing him here, and I don't know why he's asking him these questions. He already knows that Van Meter. I guess he needs to hear him say it.
Right.
Yeah. Van Meter sent us. He wanted us to kill you. Yeah. Again, unrealistic stuff. Yeah, Frank Serpico got tired of all the corruption he witnessed, all of the bullcrap that he had to hear. Well, he was they portray him in the movie as being a little odd, Frank Serpico Gambit, but bottom line, corruption was endemic at the time in NYPD, and he called it out, right? Yeah. But he wasn't the only one. He gets all the credit, but he wasn't the only guy that was pushing back. But so here we got, what do you think, John? Kurt Russell's able to avoid all these guys trying to kill white dudes. That was unbelievable, and the fact, obviously it's movie making, so he's got to stop and watch the bad stuff happening. They get the shot, and nobody's looking at him, and suddenly everybody's looking at him, right? And so it was, like I said, this was unbelievable. It just, the storyline just didn't fit reality.
No, it's not realistic at all.
But it was realistic that all this looting, Scott. So you were on the streets, and businesses were absolutely getting looted and burned out, right?
Oh yeah, they loot them.
They were shooting at firemen.
Yeah. Yes. Shooting at fire and stealing stuff off of fire trucks. Shooting at us.
Yeah.
We drive by and somebody'd shoot at us. Like we stopped at an intersection, and there was a guy probably a couple blocks down, and he's firing a shotgun in the air, but then he sees us and he fires at us. And the driver says, or I was driving, I'm sorry. He says, go, the passenger. He says, go. And I said, he can't hit us from there. He's shooting birdshot, for Christ's sake. All of a sudden you hear it hitting the car, and he gets hit in the arm. So then I take off. We stop, and everybody gets out to see if we can find the guy, but we never found him. So later he said, why don't you go? And I said, well, that was your side, so I wasn't worried about it. So after that, every time we go to make a left turn, he'd go real slow when I was a passenger, just so he'd get missed. I'm like, what are you doing? It's your side. Why should I worry about it? So,
oh man.
The funny thing is, a year later after, they totally burnt down everything. Every grocery store was completely looted and burnt down. And then they complained, the press was there.
We don't have grocery stores.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have any grocery stores.
Food
deserts. The stores aren't coming back. It's like, why? So you can burn them down, loot them, and burn them down again the next time?
Exactly.
That's what I don't get. Why do you burn down your own neighborhood?
Yeah. But that's historic in those neighborhoods.
Yep. That's exactly right. Well, the last riots, though, they spread out from their neighborhoods. They looted 3rd Street Promenade. They went to Beverly Hills. They went to the Fairfax area.
Yeah.
Serpico was mad at his advisors for not doing anything. Yes, I agree with you. But on this scene, John, and they showed a scene that this is the lieutenant promotions, right? Which I've never seen anything like this before. But they're announcing promotions, and you go up and get your badge. don't really do it that way on our department. I don't know if they do or not, or if this is just theater. But you see the guy who's he's the acting chief. He's not the chief, and he's presiding over this. And somebody comes over and tells him that the riots are going on, and he said we need to do something. And I believe this is real. This did happen. And and his comment was, well, we have to wait for word from the chief who's at a Brentwood fundraiser. Remember that did actually happen.
Yeah.
That they didn't take action and Gates wasn't available. He was at a fundraiser, and they didn't take action right away. I mean, the story I heard, and I don't know if it's true or not, but that they started rioting downtown, and they threw something at our undersheriff, who was standing outside our headquarters, our Hall of Justice, watching what was going on over at LAPD and the City Hall. And he got mad. He went back inside, and they locked down CJ, and suddenly the first 150 guys in downtown, police in downtown, were deputy sheriffs. They they just went to lockdown, took half that staff, and marched them across the street and took over parts of downtown to protect the Hall of Administration, the county buildings, and the Hall of Justice. And and what I heard was the sheriff called up, "What the hell is going on to LAPD? Do you need our help? How come you're not doing anything?" I don't know if those are urban legends. I did hear that happened.
We had a couple of different stations that were ready to go, and Block said no because they didn't want to embarrass LAPD, and that was just ridiculous. We should have gone in there and we would have put a stop to it right away.
But that says something about the way LAPD's leadership is. I mean, for years, like our department, if I made an arrest, I'd drive to the station, run it by the watch sergeant, run it by, if it was a felony, I ran it by the watch commander. They put their initials on the booking slip, and guys in jail. LAPD, got to call sergeant over, you got to run it by him, then you got to run it by the station, and then you're out of service until you write the report and do all that. So I can totally imagine we can't do anything until the chief tells us to. Where the sheriff's department doesn't operate like that. If Pat's the watch commander and a riot starts, and he doesn't do anything at the and waits to get okayed from, he's going to get demoted for not taking any action.
Yeah, so, you're going to say, hey, we're you're going to get all your guys in your riot gear. You're going to, get half your staff, or probably all of your staff, and you're already going to call on other stations. Give me half your field forces.
Yep. It starts in the academy. The way we're trained is to take initiative, and like the Marine Corps. Scott's a Marine. Was it improvise, adapt, and overcome?
Yeah.
That's how we're taught. Whereas LAPD, well, you got to call. You got to call.
Yeah. You got to get permission. Got to get approval.
I remember when I was working security at the Sears in Hollywood, just before I went in the academy, we had a big arrest of people stealing stuff. LAPD comes in. They had to call the sergeant to approve it.
Yeah.
We already wrote the report for him. We gave him the report.
I remember I was rolling to the Winger shooting, right? I was the North End sergeant, so it wasn't even my area. Man, nobody was acting up, and we heard, deputy down or whatever was on the radio, and we didn't know the context because they were actually in LAPD's area, so we didn't know. And I remember saying, hey, first unit there, tell us what we got. And sure, I forget who it was that got there. Says, yeah, we have a deputy down, and gave a little information. My very next thing was, do we have a suspect? He's outstanding. This is exactly what I said. Okay, put me on the patch. I reach in 2 stations. I need 50% of your field forces. Start rolling to Carson's area. I'll get more information for staging area. That's the very first thing I did, because I knew we were going to put a big dragnet up to catch that guy.
Oh, hell yeah.
I remember to this day, I go, oh, shit, what do I do? I was like a sergeant for a week, and this happens. And I said, so you think about it. So you go from a deputy to a sergeant, and the very first thing I do is roll me 50% of your Region 2's field forces. I'll give you a location. We got a deputy down. Boom. And we got people there in droves right away, and we ended up catching him. He was in our containment area, right? So
good. But we're taught that, though, initiative and to handle shit.
Yeah, like
LAPD is not taught the same way as we are. That's a big difference. And this scene, by the way, is pure bullshit. If you don't know, the one that's the assistant chief that's doing the MC, he played Jimmy Barkum on Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I know. I liked him. He's a great actor. Yeah.
Oh, he is. But if I'm Kurt Russell and I'm going to lay everybody out, I sure as fuck ain't going to go there and do it in public. I'm going to ask for witness protection. I'm going to ask for this, and this, because I know I'm going to jail.
Right.
You know, and this whole thing is just a farce.
Yeah.
It's good for acting. That's it.
It's just theater. It was
exactly.
Yeah, and it's funny. Van Meter here is trying to. Well, he's had too many to drink. He's had this and that, you know, and of course, I guess it's the way you have to do it to see all the people involved and how their reactions to it coming out, because you know, he's our chief who's going after Van Meter. He gets the information at the same time that Van Meter gets it, right? And Van Meter's calculating, how do I get out of this? And the chief is calculating, how do I use this?
Exactly.
And this is the guy that represents the guy that was in charge when the riot started, because he was the one. If you didn't see it earlier in the scene, he gets, hey, things are going crazy in the city. Oh, well, we got to get a hold of the chief and ask him what he wants us to do. Yeah, it's like, that's great, because I do believe if Sheriff Block would have sent, you know, a platoon in to Florence and Normandy, you know, because LAPD was late, had he rolled in, even just a couple of squads hot, what would have happened is those helicopters would have seen police rolling in, and I believe there's the news helicopters, and the folks who would incline to riot, some of them would have said, oh, maybe it's time to stay home. This doesn't look, they don't look like they're playing around, right? But none of that happened. None of that happened for hours.
We put everybody, you know, everybody at Carson was put on, you know, 12 and 12s right off the bat.
Yep.
Everybody had to have the riot gear and everything else. Out gas masks and stuff like, you know, back then nobody had their own. I mean, you could go buy your own gas mask, but everything was, you know, in like sea bags where, okay, here's your equipment. Was handed out from the armory. Right. And, you know, what we're saying is, like, for instance, the sheriff's department, if I'm the handling unit of a, let's say, a homicide, it's my homicide.
Yep.
So when homicide shows up and says, okay, we got it now, then it becomes homicide. But if the commander showed up, whoever my commander, chief, assistant sheriff, whoever showed up, it's still my homicide. So on our department, it's like they don't come in and start telling you how to do everything or what you should do. Like any major incidents, the sergeant's job basically is to run interference and get whatever the handling deputy needs.
Right. Right.
But at LAPD, whoever is the highest rank, he takes over the incident.
Yeah. The boss isn't just on a take gamut. The boss is corrupt. He's directing the corruption. So that's you know, that's in this movie anyways, unbelievable. Yeah, I think this whole scene is unbelievable. I did like the fact that they put that scene, though, at the beginning of this scene. They put that true event about the failure of LAPD to respond initially. Yeah, I do like that, because, you know, that was true life. That was actually the criticism that came out when they looked at the riots as a failure to aggressively respond. But I have to defend LAPD in certain ways, because they had the police commission. The police commission was hardcore left, and they were overly critical of the LAPD and Gates, right? And they were working on trying to get Gates out even before this happened. And they were like, oh, well, let's just, they still had that attitude that we have today. Just let them, this is just peaceful demonstrations, or this is civil disobedience. This is acceptable. We need to accept this. But we all know when it goes too far, there's a point where you can't stop it, right?
It's mostly peaceful. Come on.
Mostly peaceful. I know they're still talking about that crap today. Now we just give up police stations. Oh, that's okay. Let them burn down a police station.
Yeah,
that'll be fine. You know, like they did in Minneapolis. That'll be fine. And I interviewed a sheriff from. He was a former SWAT guy up in Seattle, and he said, yeah, they were raid outs. So the whole chop and chassing was raid out one of our stations, and they discussed giving up one of our stations to them. and we all resisted it. We didn't do it. And I'm thinking, who are these people in charge? Appeasement only invites more corruption and disaster. So here we got our Van Meter is finally getting called out here. He's trying to wiggle his way out of this thing. And finally, the chief says, arrest this guy. I didn't understand after they walk out, the chief says, take the handcuffs off him. I didn't understand that either. I guess the scene needed to be where he's, I guess unhandcuffed. I don't know. But that was unbelievable too.
Where's he going to go?
Yeah, he's arrested. Well, he's not. They're not going to just let him go too. That's the other thing. They let him go, just like they did with Bobby. Like this is not.
That doesn't happen. He'd be arrested. And he even says, what's the worst prison we have? And he says, Folsom. He goes, can you get me into Tehachapi or
Lompoc? Yeah.
Lompoc?
Yeah.
And he goes, well, I'll see what I can do. And then you take the handcuffs off?
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
I don't know the point that they were trying to make with that whole scene.
Yeah, none of this made sense. So it was good actors with a bad script, and the director needed to go back to just directing athlete kind of movies, like The Tin Cup and Bull Durham, which were fantastic, but not cop movies because his instincts are wrong,
When you got the novel writer telling you, don't put my name on this crap.
Yeah, don't put my name on it.
Well, the director in this movie used to be a minor league baseball player, shortstop. So maybe he had way more. He had way more experience in being a jock than he did being a cop, and maybe he needed to stick to something he was familiar with because this movie.
Kurt Russell was in 2A before he got injured.
So I haven't done this before, but I think we got to give this 3 thumbs down, right? So
yeah. Wasn't impressed.
The only interesting about it is some of the true story stuff that they laced in there via the Rodney King riots.
You know how bad this was? I had to buy it on Prime. You know what the cost was?
$1.47. Yeah, I mean, there was nothing redeeming. Like, most movies are some kind of redemption, or there's some kind of
some good
something
stuff,
good.
yeah.
There's that good person. There wasn't a single. Even the chief, who's trying to weed out corruption, is corrupt. Basically, he's sleeping with a subordinate. So it's
sleeping with a subordinate and overly ambitious,
right? And it's like, so none of the characters were likable.
No.
So it went down, nowhere but to go down.
Yep.
Even the love affair wasn't like, okay, wow, these are morally corrupt people, bankrupt people.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Hey, thanks for joining me on Morning Coffee with the Chief. Stick around for a quick debrief. Martine, we are at the end of this movie, and that's a 3 thumbs down on Dark Blue. And we will see you next week on Morning Coffee with the Chief.